Thank you for joining me on this episode of Simply Saturday. As I do each week, I'm going to be showing you a card that is fast and easy to make. My name is Julie, and this is Stamp with Julie Baum. So today's card features some beautiful paper. This paper is actually part of the Perennial Lavender Suite. It's shown here. And we're going to be using this designer series paper. We're also going to use these little purple gems, purple fine shimmer gems. All right, then for our stamps, we're going to be using a stamp set that you can actually get for free during our celebration. This is the current celebration brochure, and the stamp set that I'm going to show you is this one. It's called Heartfelt Hellos, and we'll be using 2 different stamps from that set. There's more information about celebration in the description box below this video. All right, so today is kind of different because the way that I'm going to cut the paper, actually I'm going to cut enough to make 2 cards. So even though we're going to make 1 card, or that's what we set out to do, we're going to have plenty of products and pieces of paper to make 2 cards basically at the same time. So let's get started. I chose my paper, these 2 prints, and the reason that I selected these is because both the front and the back, and the front of this one and the back, are all designs that I want to feature in my card. So if you happen to have my little cutting template guides, what you're going to do is you're going to be cutting your paper at a number 2 template. So the number 2 is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And when using your templates, you're able to take your base. So here's my 2 bases, since we're making 2 cards at the same time. Here is my base, and I know that I want my next layer of paper to have a small border around it. So I lay my guide on there. That's exactly what I want. And so I know that I need to cut my paper per guide number 2, which is 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to take my trimmer, and let's cut this one at 4 by 5 1/4. And if you're using a directional print, you do want the print going the correct direction when you do your 4-inch cut. And then we will go and turn it and cut at 5 1/4. And like I said, we're just going to go ahead and do 2 pretty much as fast as we could do 1. So let's take our second piece of paper. Now, if you were only going to do 1, you do need 4 small squares of paper. I'll show you how we're going to cut this into 4 more pieces. So you don't have to actually build 2 cards at once. You could just cut your papers into the 4 parts, but you would still need to do some extra cutting, because even if I cut this one down, I'm only going to end up with 2 prints, and I want 4 prints. So that's why I say you're going to end up doing this much cutting anyhow. So if we just do it with this method, we'll end up with 2 cards. All right, there's my 2 pieces of the designer series paper, and those are 4 by 5 1/4, which is exactly what I wanted per my cutting guide. Okay, now we want to create 4 rectangles out of this. So we're going to cut it down the middle. This cut is easy to imagine in your head. We know that we have 4 inches across, so we're going to cut it at 2 inches. And only because it's designer series paper and it's very lightweight, I'm comfortable with cutting 2 pieces at the same time. I would not put 2 pieces of cardstock into this trimmer to cut at the same time. Sorry, I'm squaring them up a little bit more since I am cutting 2. I want to make sure that they're nice and straight. All right, and then we need to do this cut. Now we have 5 1/4. And so what we need to do is cut this at It's either 2 3/8 or 2 5/8. Let's see, 2.5, 2.5, 5. We need to go 5/8. So here's the 2, 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8 is the same as a half, and your 5/8 mark. All right, and that gives me equal sized rectangles. And let's do this last one, 2 5/8. All right, we're completely done with our cutting. Let's move this out of the way. Now we're going to take those rectangles and we're going to lay them down in a pleasant to the eye pattern. So I know I'm going to want this one and that, and I'm going to need one of these and one of these. So I'm probably just going to go with that. They're all coordinating, they look nice together, but they're very different. Then on the second card, we'll actually be able to do the same thing. You could change it around if you want, but the way I chose my paper, I know that this is going to be the best look for me. All right, because we're making 2 cards, I have 2 card bases. So I went ahead and matched the colors in the designer series paper with my cardstock. Now, Gorgeous Grape is a beautiful purple and not a color that gets used very often. So I love that Gorgeous Grape is featured in this paper. So we'll do 1 card on the Gorgeous Grape. Now I cut this at 5.5 by 8.5 and scored and folded it down the center at 4 1/4. That's one of the card bases. The second one I chose to cut at 4 1/4 by 11. So this is a long card this way, and it can open this way or this way. We're going to have it open this way. All right, there's the 2 card bases. Now we have our layout. All we're going to do is attach that to the front of the card. So I'm going to do a dry fit and lay them on here, just kind of getting my idea. It's going to have a small border around the outside showing the Gorgeous Grape color, a small alley in between the papers. You can see that. And again, a small border all the way around and a little bit of a gap between the papers in the center. All right, so that's what we're going for. So we need to get our first one in place. I am definitely going to encourage you to use your liquid glue for this because you might need to slide this piece around just a teeny bit if when you set it down it's not quite right. So I'm going to lay it down. I already did my dry fit, so I can already imagine about where it needs to go. And then before I press that down too much, I'm going to go ahead and get the second one in place. This way I can look at my borders and my spacing between the 2 papers, and that is looking good. So now we can press those into place. There's 1 and 2. We're going to do the same thing with 3 and 4. And it just gets easier once you have a couple of pieces in place because your eye can quickly detect if you're lining them up straight and if your borders are pretty equal. So the first one is the trickiest, second one not too hard, and the third and the fourth one are super easy. All right, now we can press those down, make sure that they're in place. Since we're in gluing mode, let's go ahead and glue on our second one. All right, as I mentioned, first one is the trickiest, but we've already done 1 whole card. So again, you can pretty much tell where that needs to go. I'm not going to press it down into place until I get the second one on. Now, besides Gorgeous Grape, there are several other purples in this paper, and they all look lovely with their coordinating cardstocks. There's Highland Heather in this paper. There is Starry Sky, Berry Burst, Fresh Freesia. So lots of purples get attention. Here's a good example of a bunch of those different purples. And then besides the purples, there is the color that is called Lost Lagoon, which is a lovely blue-green. You can kind of see that here as well as in the leaves. Crumb Cake is not a color that's really listed as part of this paper, but I felt like definitely this background and this check was Crumb Cake. So when I pulled out my Crumb Cake cardstock, you can see that it coordinates very nicely. All right, there's our 4 rectangles now all in place on both cards. Okay, now for our quick stamping. So I've just got some scrap, basic white cardstock here. And I think for the Gorgeous Grape card, I will go ahead and use, I was gonna use Gorgeous Grape and it's in another room because I am setting up for a class. So let's use a coordinating color. Let's use Highland Heather. Is that one here? Let's see here. Oh, I spoke too soon. Gorgeous Grape is here. Okay. Yeah, at this time I'm also prepping for a class, so I have a bunch of bins full of product that are already pulled that we're going to be using in class. All right, we've got our 2 stamps that we can choose from. I think I'll do the purple one in the Happy Mother's Day. So this is Gorgeous Grape ink. Now, this is a brand new stamp set for me, and I just opened it and mounted the stamps today. Since it's never been stamped, I'm going to go ahead and take a piece of scratch paper here and just give it a practice stamp or 2. It never hurts to take a couple of seconds and just give it a practice. Make sure that it's stamping how you expect it to. All right. I think we're going to be happy with this. So right in the middle of my scrap, because I am going to punch this out. So I want to make sure I leave enough space around the edges. All right, there's that one. This kind of didn't come out so great. No one's going to know. I'm going to flip it over and stamp it one more time. Even with my practice, I feel like the word day is not quite as clear and dark as I would like it to be. So we'll just give it a second opportunity here. Yep, I like that one better. All right, then for our second card, it's gonna be a toss-up between colors. I could use Crumb Cake, but I think I'm gonna use Lost Lagoon. So let's see what that looks like. If it's terrible, I said Lost Lagoon, I did not. I don't think I meant that. I think it's Pretty Peacock. Now I'm gonna have to look at my packet of paper. I think where I was saying Lost Lagoon, even though there might be Lost Lagoon in the paper, we're going to use Pretty Peacock because I'm sure of that. That's funny. I wouldn't have caught myself had I not reached for the ink pad. Okay, so instead of Crumb Cake, which I'm sure would have looked good on here, let's use Pretty Peacock. Oh, I love that. That is really a beautiful color. And it just looks so good with that paper. All right, super easy. We're gonna take our heartfelt hexagon punch and we're gonna punch the words out. So I'm just centering that. There's 1. And 2. Okay, so that's the wrong side. This is the side we want. All right, let's put our purple one together. I'm gonna go ahead and take some Stampin' Dimensionals and put them on the back side of this. Let me show you, while I'm putting these on, that whole stamp set. The greetings in there it's just such a nice variety. You've got Father's Day, Mother's Day, and Easter. So that's kind of nice because maybe you don't do a lot of stamping for those occasions, but at least in one stamp set, you've got those. And then your kind of everyday ones. Enjoy your day, hello, love you more, that's cute. That could also be Valentine's. So it's a nice collection of 6 stamps for free. Okay, so I'm gonna put this right down in the center of our card. Now, the reason that I was really drawn to this card and wanted to show it to you today on Simply Saturday is because you get to see and use multiple pieces of that beautiful paper. So depending on which designer series paper pack you pick, you can just choose a little selection and it features 4 different papers all at once. I love it. All right, let's put our dimensionals on here. Now this one is just about gone. So I'm using the edges. Because they still work really well. Okay, let's get that one placed. And then we will just embellish with some very simple embellishments, keeping it fast and simple. That looks nice. The colors look good. The shape is nice, but really simple and clean. So what we're going to do is I've chosen a couple of ribbons that I'm quite sure are going to work. So I've got this gorgeous grape ribbon, which I'm confident is not available currently, but you might have some purple ribbon in your stash, or maybe even some fresh freesia that was available last year when those were the new in colors. But just look through your ribbon, or if you need to purchase something, just find a color that's going to go with your papers. This gorgeous grape could not be any more perfect. All right, I'm going to trim the edges of this and then we're going to attach it to the card. And to do that, our best bet is to use some mini glue dots. And I'm sure that 1 would hold it, but I'm going to go ahead and use 2 just to make sure. So I'm going to stick it right to the glue dot on the backing paper and peel that off. And I'm going to go ahead and stick a second one on there. So I'm kind of going on that knot of my bow. And then the bow that we've just made and put the dots on is going to go right there. Very elegant, very simple, and understated. We're going to put a couple of gems on here, but let's put our bow on this one, our twofer card. Now this is a burlap ribbon that actually is available. It comes in a combo with some red ribbon. It's a little bit wider than I would typically choose for a bow, but let's try it. The color is so perfect, and I like the little stitching on it. So as long as it doesn't look too big once I lay it on the card, we're just going to go with it. I am not sure. I think that needs to go that way. Sometimes you need to fiddle with your loops and your tails. I'm shortening these and then I'm going to pull them again just to make my bow tighter. There we go. I think it's going to be just fine. So let's trim this one up. And this side. Reach for our glue dots and do 1 and 2. All right, this is going to get placed right here and pressed down. And for the last little element, let's use these Purple Fine Shimmer Gems. Now they're on the little plastic sheet, and they're kind of, and here, let me put this under. They're like an ombre, so they go from a light to a medium purple to kind of a pinky purple. So you can determine which ones you want to use, but they're all, they all kind of work well together. So on this one, I think I'm going to use the darker purple, and I might just use one. Let me see here what I think. One. You always want to use odd numbers. So you're going to use 1, 3, or 5. I definitely don't want 5. It's too much for this card. I'm trying to decide. Maybe I'll just go down here. We'll draw all the attention to the gem and to the bow. All right, there's that one. And on this one, I think I'll lean towards this lighter purple. And that looks nice as well. All right, there's our gem. Now I do have some white cardstock cut to place on the inside of these so that you have your panel. And that's nice because then you can stamp on it, or you can write your message. You can decorate it with stamps or with designer series paper. I will be leaving mine plain because, again, this is Simply Saturday and we are going for fast and easy, not necessarily the most over-the-top card in the world. All right, so there's that one. And let's put the insides on this one. And as I said at the beginning, in just about the same amount of time to make one card, we have made 2 cards today. This inside white panel is also a cutting template number 2 size, 4 inches by 5 1/4. And there we have it. There's our Simply Saturday fast and easy card, and we did a 2-for-1 today. Now remember, you can substitute whatever papers you want here. You can put any word or sentiment in the middle, punch it out with a circle or a square instead. The variations are just so wide. You can do all kinds of different things. So don't get stuck on purple and perennial lavender paper. Use what you have. Or if you can't wait to copy this card exactly like it is, then go ahead and order those products. I'll put that order information in the description box below this video, as well as a current host code. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy stamping!